Assalamualaikum Dr. Habini and good morning. Today our group will be presenting on security protection. There are 5 group members who will present and they are Muhammad Wafi, that is me, and I am going to talk about the introduction and later the summary. Okay, next is Muhammad Amar Idham will talk about the first method of security protection, which is encryption. And then Afifah will continue with the second method, which is firewall. The third method will be presented by Aisyah, and lastly, Muhammad Shahmi will discuss the use of authentication, password and security code. We need to understand first, what is security protection? Security protection is the protection of computer systems and data from damage, theft and unauthorized access. Why do we need to have security protection? To keep your computer safe and helps you avoid from malware and direct hacking attempts designed to steal your personal information. Now that we know it is important, so how do we protect our computers? We protect our computers and informations from being attacked by hackers, malware and viruses. There are many methods actually, but we are just going to focus on 4 common ones. My group members will continue to talk about each one in detail.
Okay, my name is Muhammad Amar Idham bin Muhammad Fahimi. My team number is F0165. So, now I will talk about the encryption. So, definition of encryption is using mathematical technique to secure data and translate data information using algorithm. So, what is encryption? The process of exchanging or securing data so it can be read only by someone with the means to renew it to its previous state. It is have key data security for security information. So, how it is used to protect sensitive data in transit from potential damage when there is data realization. We move to the type of cipher. The first type are asymmetry, which is used two different key to decrypt and decrypt data, which is public key and secret key. So, secondly, symmetry, use symmetric key to encrypt and decrypt data, which is public key. So, both of these cipher convert plain text to cipher text. Now, we move to the type of encryption. Firstly, the Advanced Encryption Standard, which is AES. Secondly, Reverse Shamir-Edaman, RSA. Thirdly, Triple Data Encryption Standard, TDES. Now, fourthly, Blowfish, and next is Turbofish, and lastly, Format Preserving Encryption (FPE). Now, it is when we use the encryption. Firstly, when we web browse, we use an encrypt protocol and HTTPS to provide the secure communication and avoid our data from being read by other people. When we e-commerce, company protect our financial information when we use online banking and buy something in online. So, lastly is secure messaging. It keep the privacy and security of the user's communication. So, some application use encryption, some application use end-to-end encryption, such as WhatsApp. So, what is the advantage of the encryption? Firstly, extremely secure, which is used as a robust encryption algorithm to encrypt the data. Secondly, separation. Data is separate from the security of the device. And thirdly, non-data infiltration. Ensure that your data cannot be easily hacked. And lastly, avoid coding error, which is encryption they provide the best security of data. There are the disadvantages of the encryption. Firstly, expensive because it is constantly upgrade and must have storage capacity system. And secondly, unrealistic equipment, which is understand the restraint that be imposed by the technology of data encryption. Thirdly, the computer is slow because of the full of this encryption and we need to use the encryption code to encrypt data. So, lastly, recovery of the complex data, which is encryption provide the best security of data. So, I think that's all for me. We move to the next.
Next, we move to a firewall. A firewall is a network security device that monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic and allows or disallows data packets according to a set of security rules. What does a firewall do? Firewalls can help keep your network, computer and data safe and secure. What is goal? Its goal is to create a barrier between your internet network and incoming traffic from other sources, such as the internet, so that malicious traffic like virus and hackers can get in. Why we need firewall? By controlling network traffic, a firewall can help safeguard our computer and data. A firewall verifies access by scanning incoming communication for dangerous elements such as hackers and malware that could infect your machine.
Start your computations.
A network firewall and structured firewall work in a similar way. A firewall in a building such acts as a barrier, keep a fire contained from spreading to the other side in the event of a fire on either side of the building. The firewall purpose is to prevent the fire from damaging the entire structure. However, if the firewall was not present, the firewall would spread to the other side of the building, destroying the entire structure. A firewall works based on rules. A firewall filters incoming network data and determines whether it is allowed to enter a network based on its rules, which are also referred to as an access control list. Firewalls can create rules based on a variety of factors other than IP address. In example, the firewall rules are controlling access by port numbers. The rules have allowed incoming data that using port number 80, 25, and 110. And the data using this port have given access to this network, so it can pass through the firewall. But port number 23 and 3389 were denied. Firewall rules also can be based on IP address, domain names, protocols, programs, ports, and keywords. Next is host-based firewall. Host-based firewall is a software firewall that is installed on a computer. It's only protect a computer. Next is network-based firewall. Network-based firewall is a combination of software and hardware firewalls. It protects an entire network. Next is type of firewall. Packet filtering firewalls, proxy service firewalls, stateful multiplayer inspection firewalls, unified threat management firewalls, net generation firewalls, network address translation firewalls, and virtual firewalls. The risk of not having a firewall is open access, loss or compromised data, and network crash.
Now, I'm going to tell you about intrusion detection system, which we call it as IDS. IDS is a process of identifying and responding to malicious activity targeted at resources. IDS system against a given set of parameters and capture data when these thresholds are met. IDS uses collected information and predefined knowledge-based system to reason about the possibility of an intrusion. IDS also provides services to cope with intrusions such as giving alarm, activating program to try to deal with intrusion. Next, I'm going to tell you guys about the function of the IDS. So, what is actually the function of IDS? An IDS detects attacks as soon as possible and takes appropriate action. Second, an IDS does not usually take preventive measures when an attack is detected. Third, it is reactive rather than a proactive agent. It plays a role of informant rather than a police officer. So, there's a 4 types of IDS. Firstly, Network Intrusion Detection System, which is we call it an IDS, an independent platform which identifies intrusion by examining network traffic and monitors multiple hosts. For example of INDS is SNOT. Second, Protocol-Based Intrusion Detection System, or we call it a PIDS, consists of a system or agent that will typically sit at the front end of a server, monitoring and analyzing the communication protocol between a connected device, which is a user or. So, there's a 4 types of. Third, the Application Protocol-Based Intrusion Detection System, or we call it a APIDS, consists of a system typically sit within a group of server, monitoring and analyzing the communication on application-specific protocol. Last but not least, Host-Based Intrusion Detection System, or we call it HIDS, consists of an agent on a host which identify intrusion by analyzing system calls, application logs, file system modifications such as binaries, password files, capability, ACL database, and other host activity and state. For example, HIDS is OSS. So, there are some capabilities of IDS. Firstly, monitoring the operation of routers, firewalls, key management, servers, and files that are needed by other security control aimed at detecting, preventing, or recovering from cyber attack. Secondly, providing administrators a way to tune, organize, and understand relevant OSRD trails and other logs that are otherwise difficult to check or fix, including an intensive attack signature database against which information from systems can be matched, providing a user-friendly interface so non-expert staff members can assist with managing system security. So, there are difference between IDS versus IPS. So, IDS is for detecting and monitoring instruction. It won't take action on its own, but IPS can decide whether to accept or reject packet based on rules. Secondly, IDS need help from human being or automated system to interpret the result and can decide whether to take action. But for IPS, it needs to be updated to recognize the latest string.
The meaning of the word authentication is the process or action of proving or showing something to be true, genuine, or valid. So in ICT, authentication is the process of recognizing or identifying a user's identity, whether it's true, real, or not. It's simply a verification of claim whether you're the person that you have claimed to be. So there are three authentication factors. Number one is knowledge, number two is possession, and last but not least is biometric factor. So every factor has its own strengths and weaknesses. Hence, to create a reliable and strong authentication relies on combining two or more of the factors stated just now. So there are a few methods of authentication. Number one is the passwords and pin-based authentication. So passwords and pins are categorized as something you know method. A combination of numbers, symbols, and mixed cases are considered to be stronger than all-letter password. So the second method is the SMS base. So the user receives password by reading the message in the cell phone and types back the password to complete the authentication. So the third way or the third method is biometric authentication. So biometric authentication is the use of unique physical attributes and body features as an intermediate for better identification and access control. So last but not least is token. So tokens generically are something the claimant possesses and controls that may be used to authenticate the claimant's identity. So the first characteristic of biometric authentication is homogenization and decoupling. So biometric can be separated into physical or behavioral security. It is important that it produces the same result and thus secure the user's authentication. So number two is digital traces. So biometric authentication has a considerable impact on digital traces. For example, the system memorizes a person's fingerprint that they have used or scanned to protect their data on their smartphone so that it can be reused. Number three is connectivity. So another characteristic of biometric authentication is that it combines different components such as security tokens with computer systems to protect the user. And last but not least is reprogrammable and smart. As more types of cyber threats appear, the biometric authentication must be able to adapt and evolve in order to protect the user at all times. So a password, also known as a passcode, is a secret data, typically a string of characters that are usually used to confirm a person's identity. So there are two factors in security of a password system. Number one,
I think we're getting into a weird area.
Can submit as passwords, and it's a key factor in determining system security. For example, some systems impose a timer of several seconds after a small number of guess attempts. The second factor is limits on the number of guesses. As the name suggests, it limits the total number of guesses that can be made as an alternative way for the first factor. And for example, the password can be disabled, reset after a consecutive number of bad guesses, and the user may be required to change the password after a larger number of guesses. The security code or account security code (CSC) is a series of numbers that, in addition to the bank card number, is written on the card. So account security code is used as a security feature for card numbers and transactions, but a PIN cannot be manually entered by the card holder. It was instituted to reduce the occurrence of credit card fraud. Other names for security codes are CVC, which is card validation code, and CVV, card verification bank. There are a few types of security codes. Number one is CVC1 or CVV1. So it is encoded on track 1 and 2 of the magnetic stripe on the card and used for card present transactions and signature. The purpose of the code is to verify that a payment card is actually in the hand of the seller or merchant. The second type is CVC2 or CVV2, and this code is often used by merchants for card non-present transactions, including online purchases. The third type is ICDV, which is a contactless or chip EMV that stands for Europay, MasterCard, Visa cards that supply their own generated codes. And last but not least is Consumer Device Card Holder Verification Method, CDCVM. It has reduced the use of PIN and CVC. Now, the smart devices need to be unlocked, and the operation with any sum is done without PIN if the POS, which is known as Point of Sale Terminal, supports CDCVM. So the benefit of security codes is extra layer of security. So without this number, a person could potentially make transactions with your money if they have obtained the physical card or any information related to it. So there are limitations when it comes to security codes. Limitation number 1 is it cannot protect against phishing scams. So the growth of phishing scams have caused the effectiveness of the security code to decrease as an anti-fraud device. This is because the cardholder can be tricked into entering the security code among other card details via a fraudulent website. The second limitation is it is not mandatory for merchants to require the security code for making a transaction. So as it is not compulsory, it will make the card still prone to fraud even if only its number is known to phishers. So the third limitation is it can give a disadvantage to the merchant. Some card issuers don't use the security code. However, transactions without the security code are possibly subjected to higher card processing costs for the merchant, and fraudulent transactions without the security code are more likely to be resolved in favor of the cardholder. The last limitation is the security code can still be guessed by fraudsters. So the fraudsters can still guess the security code by using a distributed attack.
After listening to the description of each method of security protection, we can conclude that each one has its own strengths and limitations. So, in order to make sure that your computer and data are well protected as many potential threats including viruses, malwares, and hard drive failures, which will become more complicated and advanced in the future. So, I think that's all from our group. Thank you.